we're not supposed to be all the same. We're supposed to have access to the unique concoction of aspects and personality traits that we came in with, so we can show and express these differences. And this is what our genius is.
Hi there, I'm Kelli Tennant, and welcome to the Platform Podcast, where we get real so you can be well. Each week, I sit down to have authentic conversations with the leading voices in health and wellness to help you detox your life and give you the tools to feel your best and most vibrant self. My guests are here to educate you on the latest healing remedies, ancient wisdom, and alternatives to the traditional path. I've personally curated the platform to elevate your mind, body, and spirit. Last year, I was honored to meet someone who I really feel is doing groundbreaking work and does some things that many of us may not know about. And I had never heard of it up until last year. So I'm so excited that Jeroen de Wit is joining us on the show today. He is a past life regressionist who trained with Dolores Cannon in 2006. And he does such a beautiful job throughout this episode of talking about his spiritual awakening and how he owns the masculine and feminine parts of himself and redefining what it means to be a man. We talk through my experience with him in my past life regression and being hypnotized for the first time. And we sort of break the stigmas around being hypnotized and what it really is like. Not often does it look like the things we see on TV and in the movies. And we talk through our life purpose and how we can really step into that and live authentically as who we are. And so I'm so thrilled to introduce you to this concept of past life regression and how it can support you in your healing and the many ways that you can get this type of work done. So please find Jeroen on Instagram. His handle is Jeroen is love. And you can head to source-energy-therapy.com to learn more about his work. And he also does some amazing group work at Den Meditation and Liberate Hollywood here in LA. So if you have a chance to join him in a group, that's amazing because he does book out for his one-on-one sessions a few months in advance. But I highly recommend taking some time to work with him or at least look into what he's doing. This work is profound and really changed my life. And as you'll hear in this episode, it is pretty special. So enjoy this one. I kind of want to start where we were just talking about, though, in the beginning of your life where you felt like you weren't really here and why you felt that way and then what happened after that.
Sure. So I didn't know that it was this way when I was just little. I just always felt like it was always kind of, when I think back my childhood, it was very, very light. I always saw a lot of light and I was looking for lightness. I was always looking for the unseen worlds. You know, when we would go into the woods, I would be looking for like little tables and chairs and sort of hollows and trees to see if the gnomes or the elves were there. I just kind of knew that there was something more than what was seen with the visible eye. And for the longest time, until I was in my 20s, I couldn't quite get my life together in the way that I wanted it to be. I noticed that I was looking back, I noticed I was very susceptible to feeling other people's feelings to the point where I didn't even know who I was. How else? When I was talking with people or in social situations, social spaces, I did not feel confident enough to even own the ground that I would stand on. I would be like standing on the edge of a party or whatever space I was in. It was hard for me to be in spontaneous communication with somebody else without sort of really judging my own output. And I was more of a listener, and I did not dare to express myself at all. But when I found out that I sort of was checked out for the first part of my life was not until I was doing therapy when I was 27. That's when it started. I was like, oh, I had no idea. It was just my way of being. Yeah. And so, much later on, I learned about sort of the energetics of it, like what it looked like energetically inside of me, that I had shut down my circuitry in order to be able to be in a physical body in some way on the planet. And kind of survived the first part, and then had a gnarly awakening And from that moment on, I was prompted to go into healing methods or healing modalities myself, to heal myself, because I was a mess. I did not know how to be in a body or how to feel feelings, how to express feelings, how to be in social situations, how to have the life that I wanted, because I felt like there was a cap to my functioning. I could never set out to do what I wanted to do in terms of have a career. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. So that was a very small process, or not a small process, but a very slow process where I step by step sort of incarnated bits and pieces of myself. So that was my journey, and that is now my gift as well. I learned later that I help other people do the same thing, to recover parts of themselves that they had lost in the process of growing up on this earth.
What was the awakening that happened for you? What triggered it?
The awakening, I was in Landmark Forum. I was in, I had a relationship that I was dumped out of a relationship. And instead of knowing how to deal with the feelings of rejection, all that stuff, I thought, well, I'm just going to do what I've always wanted to do, which was dance. So I signed up for a dance orientation at a dance academy in Amsterdam, where I lived, and just started dancing. And I got into the program, the full university full 4-year program, and thinking this is what I always wanted to do. As a little boy, I was taken to judo classes while my cousins got to go to ballet class, and I always wanted to dance ballet, but I was too afraid to say it because I've already felt wrong for feeling the gender that I felt I was. I feel like I'm sort of in the middle. I don't feel masculine or feminine as portrayed by what you see in society. I didn't fit the binary. So I made myself wrong for that. And so I was too afraid to ask for what I wanted, that I really wanted to dance ballet out of fear of, being teased or being called a sissy or a fag, even more than I already was. So I made it into what I thought my dream was, to be training to be a dancer. And I had trouble being in the program. I was always thinking which classes could I skip? How can I be out of these situations where you had to be in a body, you had to be in social situations, you had to put forward your own creativity. It scared me to death. So I spoke to the dean, and she said, well, why don't you do Landmark Forum? It's like a 3 or 4 day sort of group process where they lead you through insights. And it's very mental. It works on the mental plane very much. And so I did that. And it was like personal growth. And after the 4th day, everybody was jubilant, and they finally found the key to life. And I was, I don't know, my experience was that I had been stripped from everything that I thought was true, which was thinking that my value was dependent on what was outside of me. And so being stripped of all that, the only place that I could take it was inside of me. And that was a big mess of unprocessed feelings and experiences, and not knowing who I was, and other people's feelings, lots of energies that were not mine. I didn't know it at the time what that was, but looking back at it, at the time, I just thought, I am fucking losing it. I don't know what this is. This is gnarly. I've never heard of anything like this. The only thing I knew in order to get out of it was that I shouldn't go into, get a psychiatric evaluation, but I should contact holistic healers. And so I did. The very first place that I went kind of gave me an idea of what was going on. The person said that I was sort of knocked out of my body, and I was sort of hanging on by the crown chakra. And so he did energy healing on me and gave me some homeopathic pellets that helped me click sort of back into the body, and I could feel that. But whenever I would be in a difficult situation emotionally, my lower chakra was closed back up, and I could feel it happening. And then I had to go back and ask for more of these pellets and do the same thing. And so I figured, because I thought, okay, now I'm healed. Now I have these pellets. I get this energy healing. That should be it. But then I found out that there was a whole, an enormous part of me that was still unprocessed that I didn't know about. And so different healers and therapists were put in my path, and where I learned to feel my feelings, express my feelings, to find out who I was. And this continues up until today. It's an ongoing journey to embracing fully who I'm here to be. And so I've walked a certain amount of that journey. And so in turn, now it's like I hold medicine for other people to do the same thing, because I can feel it and see it when I talk to people in my work, and insert little words and phrases and help them embrace who they are, because I think that's what we're here to be authentically expressed, instead of being determined by the common denominator thinking that's out on the planet right now.
At what point in your life did you realize you were identifying with both masculine and feminine?
I knew that very, very young. Yeah, I grew up in a very small village in the Netherlands, population 3,500.
Oh, wow.
Yes, little white boys, little white girls. The little boys would be bullying and fighting, and the girls were playing hopscotch, and I learned how to sew quilted sleeping bags for my stuffed animals. So I knew that's what I enjoyed doing, but I've made myself wrong for not expressing the type of masculinity that was around me. When I was 11, I remember telling my mom, like, I think I feel more like a girl. And so, gradually in my life, I know I'm not in the wrong body. This is the right body for me. I just don't, how to explain this? Like, I looked at myself from the image of masculinity that is in our society and made myself wrong for it. But now I know that I am in a man's body and I'm very, very comfortable. I'm just expressing my own flavor of gender, and it doesn't have a label, and I'm completely okay with it now. Yeah.
It just took a lot of years and a lot of work, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your mom's reaction when you went to her and said this?
Kind of similar to, what was around me when I was growing up. It's like, oh, yeah, just shut it down. Like any of those questions, like, oh, what do you know what it feels like to be like a woman? I was like, oh, she's got a point there. I don't know. But it wasn't like she was open to talking about it. Mm-hmm. And it's very much the culture that I'm from. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of space for feelings, but it's more, what do you call it? Like
cerebral.
Cerebral, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. My experience of it.
Right. So as you have become more authentically yourself and owned who you are and become very comfortable with that, how has that been with your family and your friends from that part of your life?
Let's see. My family, they're very loving. They're just, they had their own upbringing and their own limitations. So they just didn't have the awareness of many of the other layers in the sense that I do. Yeah, this is I'm just a different person. And so they're completely fine with it. Like they're from a very sort of liberal part of the Netherlands. And so their thinking is very liberal and tolerant. The hardest part was me growing up through puberty, and I left my parents when I was 16. So there was a bit of a split there, but we rekindled pretty quick. And then when I went into therapy and all personal growth, I just gained more compassion and love for myself and in turn for them as well. And my friends from that time, I dropped out of school when I was 16 and joined an alternative school that was housed in a squat, democratically based. I think that's the word. So both pupils and teachers could have a say in what the school did. And so I learned about iriscopy, and we did yoga and drama next to the sort of the normal subjects. We learned about how multinationals are destroying the planet. This is when I was a teen. We learned how to grow vegetables in a garden. It was an amazing place to be.
That's so cool. I'm so jealous.
So when I look back, I'm so grateful that I had those experiences around me. And so I do have friends from that area from that time. So it's not a problem. It's not like I'm not from a very conservative background where people think that I shouldn't be gay or I shouldn't be expressing the way I am. They're just supportive.
What are you seeing now? Because I'm not obviously fully in this world, so I don't see it or experience it myself. But what do you see now, even just in the United States, in terms of kids growing up, that there's more gender fluidity, there's less of a title or a label on someone, and you can just be who you are, and there's more acceptance. Like, it's just so different than I'm sure when you were younger.
Totally. Yeah. So I'm 47 now. I was born in 71, and it was very, very different. And you're right. Like the younger generations that I've worked with in my practice, they are online way more than what I remember myself to be. I was visiting a friend. I might have told you this when we were doing our session. I was visiting a friend who we were standing in her kitchen, and her little 3-year-old runs into the kitchen and goes, "Mom, what you just said hurt my feelings." And she wasn't saying anything hurtful. It was just something that hit a nerve inside of him. But I looked at him. I stopped what I was doing. Like, how does this kid know to have language for his feelings? And how does he know that his inner world, who he is being acknowledged and accepted, regardless of what that, however that expresses? I thought that was amazingly powerful. Yeah.
Many of you have already gotten your journal that we launched just a few weeks ago. And the reason I launched the journal with my dear friend, Lisa Devine, is because I realized at the end of 2018 just how powerful journaling really is. And taking the time every morning to add it to my routine and finding peace and quiet, turning on my calm music, or maybe sometimes my upbeat music, turning on the fireplace, lighting candles, and really getting quiet and asking myself, what is it that I need today? What is it I need to get off my chest? What is ailing me? What am I feeling in my body? What do I want to manifest? What kind of energy do I want today? And so taking the time to journal and use our prompts every single day will really help you find yourself again and listen to yourself and trust yourself and see the themes and the patterns of what's going on in your daily life. And so I urge you to head to thisistheplatform.com/journal and get yours today. And please let me know how it's working for you. We've received so many incredible notes from people that have implemented this into their lives already and are seeing the benefits. And it excites me so much to be able to share my magic mornings with you.
I've been having quite a few conversations. As you know, I was on a retreat this last weekend, and so it's made me question the entire world and everything in it. Right? Yeah, exactly. But it's this concept that I keep talking about is trauma from childhood and the way that it is sitting in our bodies and ingrained in us. So whether you were abandoned or molested or anything within that range, it stays in your body. And I know that so much of your work, and we'll get into that in a second specifically, but so much of your work addresses a lot of things that happened during childhood. So when you have a kid that knows how to address their feelings and share that, that's so important, because so many of us, so many things happen and we don't know how to express it, and then it's left undone. And we don't know how to get through it. It
limits your sense of fullness of having access to your own authenticity. Yeah, I completely agree with what you just said. Yeah.
So how would you describe the way trauma stays in our body emotionally and physically?
Oh, I love that question. Because my journey has been very much like to get back into the body. One of the first healing modalities I accessed was bioenergetics. What it does is it places your body in certain sort of, they call it grounding postures. Basically what it does, it has you connect with the energy of the earth. And when it starts rising up inside of you, it hits up against blockages that have been stored in your musculature, like in the physical body. So whenever there was feelings unexpressed or needs unexpressed, they go, like whenever you weren't seen or heard, or there was, physical or any kind of abuse, the emotions of it that were unprocessed get stuck into the musculature of the body. I think William Reich did, sort of spearheaded this modality. So it creates blockages inside of your physical body for you to have the energy just flow freely. And in this particular modality, when the energy starts flowing, you start to experience them. So I would be experiencing needs that I had as a baby, as a toddler, crying out for my mom, when she might have not been around. It could be very, very subtle things. So we all understand like trauma happening through the obvious cases of like violence, whether it be verbal or physical or sexual. We understand that, but it can be much more subtle of a parent just not being aware or being present with your expression of yourself. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I'm just processing that, because I think it is hard for a lot of people to understand, because we can't see it, right? Because we weren't conscious at that time, especially as an infant, or even if you had a traumatic birth. So I think it's a really difficult concept to understand, because we think, okay, well, something bad happened when I was 7 or 25. I get that. But I don't even remember it happening. How could it possibly affect me now at 31?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What the mechanics of it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it gets stored as places where we lose access to ourselves. when you look into the eyes of a baby, you know, what I see is expansiveness and love. And I mean, it's an experience for me. At one time I was in a streetcar in Amsterdam and just looking into the eyes of a toddler in a trolley or a prom. And it made me cry, like the enormous amount of love that was pouring out of this little one. Because this is who we know we are when we're that little. We might not be able to articulate it, but we have the experience that we're still connected to our part of source or God or creator that we are. And then it's through trauma, whether, you know, the explicit forms of trauma or very subtle places where we're not acknowledged or seen, that we shut parts of ourselves down. We make part of ourselves, part of that life, we make it not good enough. And so we kind of shelve it away, like, oh, it doesn't work out in the world, you know. And it makes sense because, you know, the world has been operating on a belief that we are physical human beings having physical and emotional experiences, but not that we're spiritual beings having human experiences. And so for many of us, when we have not been acknowledged in who we are, then we shut a lot of that down. And what seems to be happening right now is that we're in this wave of people awakening to the awareness that they're not all here, that they don't have full access to themselves. They're not quite aware of their life's purpose, of who they are, away from what society tells you to be. And so when that happens, then a search starts. People start to go on a journey of exploration to remember who they are. And it's really, I think, I always use a diagram in my head of this, that we're sort of this funnel of energy, and then we have to shut down parts of it. We lose contact with our worthiness, our knowing that we are God on the planet, by having had to shut down our feelings or our spiritual experiences or our different expression of gender, or making our body shape not good enough, or our race or our sexual identity, or whatever we use, or whatever happens to us that makes us judge these parts of ourselves. And, you know, from my perspective, we're all here very, very much on purpose in the body that you're in the racial, sexual, gender expression that you're in. We're all here to fly our freak flags high, you know. And I'm saying freak flags not in a derogatory way, but to just be authentically present on the planet. We're not supposed to be all the same. We're supposed to have access to the unique concoction of aspects and personality traits that we came in with, so we can show and express these differences. And this is what our genius is. You know, when we get access to all of that and we express as is, instead of limiting our expression because of what society, culture, people around you might think.
Yeah. That's such a beautiful explanation. Yeah, I love that so much.
Oh, good.
Good job.
Thank
proud
you.
Of you.
Yeah, I mean, I am proud of it because it's really a lived through experience for me.
Yeah.
You know, through doing my own journey and then working with people, it kind of like, my mind kind of, you know, created an image for myself. And that's what it's true for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I came to you for past life regression.
Yes, you did.
Which was amazing. Gosh, that was so long ago. I'm due back for another one. We need to go on another journey on a cloud. I had the best time with you. You are so lovely. And working with you is so amazing. But for people that don't know what a past life regression is, can you please explain it?
How much time do we have?
I know, right? We could stay here all day if you want.
So it's called past life regression, but it doesn't quite cover the charge of it. But it's a name that people can relate to, because it is a regression in terms of that the process, we use a sort of a hypnotic induction to get people into a place where they're very, very comfortable and very, very relaxed. And it helps you to create a stronger opening to your higher self, or subconscious mind, we call it. And so it'll bring forward experiences from different aspects of your soul as resources to help you in your current lifetime. What me and my colleagues have, and Dolores Cannon, of course, have discovered that there is no time, that in the three-dimensional experiences that we're in right now, there's time and space, but in the higher dimensions of existing, there is no such thing, apparently. And so everything is happening right now, and that we as souls are sort of more or less individuated parts of God, source, creator, you know, one of the light or the all that is, whatever words fit your perception of it. And that we split off into different experiences, all happening right now. experiences that we call past lives or parallel lives or future lives. It all seems to be happening right now. And my understanding of this process that I take people through is that we sort of bridge our experience right now with another experience that we're having right now to gain resources, to gain confirmation, affirmation, healing tools. That's how I see it happening.
So you say it's all happening right now. Can you explain that a little more? Because I didn't realize that part.
Because my human mind goes like, dude, overload. I don't know. Because I don't know what it feels like to not be in time from my human perspective. But so the abstraction it's an abstraction of an experience. So it's not a concrete experience that I can say I know. But apparently when we tune into, it's like when people do this work with me, oftentimes they think they've been working for 10 or 20 minutes. And then, I count them back out and then it's been 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
That's how you felt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's different modalities accessible right now, like ayahuasca or meditation, where people sort of lose track of time, where time seems to behave in a different way. And I think that is an indication of this happening, that when you tune into different levels of existence, apparently time doesn't exist. But yeah, as you do these different exercises, you have a different experience of time. So it might be an indicator of that really being true. Because I don't know. I haven't had that experience of there being no time and everything happening right now.
Yeah. So the thing that I learned, because I really went in without expectations, which I ask everyone to go into every experience without expectations. It is the best way. Right. And you truly get everything you need out of it. And you're not disappointed. And it is what it is. It's what it's meant to be. And that's what I got from you. But I went back to past lives. I also went back in this life childhood. Right. And I actually went into the future.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I saw myself in like 5 years from now.
Oh.
With my child.
I remember that now, yes.
Because I know you said that doesn't happen very often.
No.
So how do you, I guess the question is, why do people take themselves back to these certain scenarios or experiences in their lives, whether it be in this life, the future, or the past?
Well, the point is to help somebody with their current lifetime. So what I was trying to explain is that it's like your soul decides to give you these different experiences of different lifetimes. And it's almost like healing code being applied to you right now. So giving you resources from different experiences that your soul's having in order to help you with your current lifetime. And it can work on, the very physical, emotional, mental, spiritual levels. I never know really what's happening. And I don't think we have a full grasp of how it is working as we're in it. I tend to think of it as that we're sort of aware of sort of the tip of the iceberg, and there's more going on underneath the waterline that we don't know about, because I have clients coming back to me after their session and they say, oh, you know what? While we were working on these issues, since your session, this and this and this is cleared as well. And neither one of us was aware of this happening. So I think there's more sort of percolating through us as we're getting this work done. But yeah, so this is how I see it, that your soul decides to give you different experiences from different lifetimes to sort of, it's almost like a piece of a puzzle that fits into what's happening right now to help you get onto a higher plan with what's going on.
Well, and you were mentioning, I remember when I told you that I had seen the future, and you said oftentimes this is because your soul knows that you need a little reassurance that things are going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a glimpse into the future, like, look, like this is happening. Yeah. Take a breath. Don't panic about it.
Yes.
And so I think that's really interesting, because I'm definitely like a controlling, need to know all the answers kind of person.
As many of us are,
yeah.
Yes.
So I was like, of course I was shown the future.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
But it doesn't happen very often, because sometimes it can not be healing for people. It can be something that they're really attached to and they forget to live the journey towards it. So if it works out, if people respond to it in that way, then it won't be given.
Well, and my question on the future is, if I see this future experience
free will, of course, plays a role in everything. So how does that impact it?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. When I look back at my own experiences I've had where I knew things about my future, whether it was working with readers or healers or had my own experiences, it kind of gave me a true north to sort of aim towards. And then still the journey expressed itself much different from what I've ever could have imagined. But it was kind of like an icon on your computer that, when you tap on it, it opens up a whole program or something. Yeah.
So when you take people, I love your method. I don't know how anyone else does this, so I can only go off of yours. Mm-hmm. But first of all, your voice is so soothing and calming. It's like the most amazing experience laying on the table with like hearing your voice. I feel so safe, which is amazing because I'm sure people come to you scared of what's happening.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So having you there with your calm presence and energy and voice is amazing. But can you walk us through when you put someone on a cloud and you take them through this experience and then you drop them into the scene and you ask them to explain what's going on? What is that method and why do you use it?
So it is called QHHT or Quantum Healing Hypnosis technique. And it was developed by a woman called Dolores Cannon. And she used to call it Past Life Regression, but then she changed it to Quantum Healing Hypnosis technique because she found out it had a healing component as well. And as I explained earlier, that it's not just past lives that we're going into. And that past lives is not really an accurate name for it anyway. So it uses hypnosis, and that cloud thing that you just described is part of the hypnotic induction. And it very gently both has you relax, but also disengage or de-identify with your current body, your current personality, and kind of go on a little daydream trip in your mind's eye. Kind of to open up, to lessen the expectations or the control or the critical faculty of our conscious mind that's always helping us out during our, day-to-day life. But it kind of has it go to an easy, relaxing place. Yeah, and when that happens, the information is automatically there. It's your higher self that just has it bubble up inside of your experience.
Yeah. It's interesting because every time I would drop into a scene, you would say, how old are you? What are you wearing? What do you look like? And so I would it was like having an out-of-body experience where I was that girl in that scenario, but I was also watching her separately. Mm-hmm. So I could see myself and talk about what I looked like. But then, for example, I went back to like the 1700s and I was the medicine woman of this village. And I watched my husband get killed right in front of me. And it was like I was that woman again. I was sobbing on your table. I was shaking. It was horrific.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting dynamic where you're watching it, but also experiencing it at the same time.
Yes. The best way that I compare it is like you're like really sucked into some really good show on Netflix or something. Yeah. I'm a big crier, so I definitely go through the feelings of it, even though I know I'm not in that scene. I'm in my bedroom, with some snacks, just laying around and I'm watching the show. Yeah, but still having the feelings. Mm-hmm. That's the best comparison.
Yeah. And it just gave me so much clarity because I feel like the work I'm doing now with the show and all of the courses we're doing and the women that we're helping, it was like of course I was a healer in the 1700s and the medicine woman of a village because that's how I live my life now. And so it gave me an understanding of why I feel so comfortable in this role.
Right.
Which is beautiful. And I feel like that's probably something a lot of people get from you.
Yes. Yeah. So it is very satisfying when these scenes make a lot of sense. And so part of this process is that I, at one point in that process, ask your subconscious mind, like, why was the person shown these scenes? How is it helping them? For that reason, to know. But it's also more of sort of a immersive experience where different things or different energies are clicked into place to open you up to more of an experience of yourself as a confident person doing what it is that you do. Yeah, to remember parts of yourself that you hadn't been aware of before.
Well, and I think oftentimes we we do things and we feel like, why do I do this? Why is this a pattern for me? Why do I keep choosing this kind of guy? Why do I treat my children like this? Why do I talk like this? And it's very much a pattern that can come from past experiences. You've done something in other lives, and so you bring it into this life, whether it's karma or a lesson you need to learn.
Right.
How do you explain that to people?
Well, I do think it's like that. There were just little processors, like always processing information from different lifetimes. When you just think karma, like a lot of people come in and think that, especially when they've had horrific lives in terms of lots of challenges, they tend to think that they're being punished, or karma is just, sticking it to them, as if there's some kind of punishing God or universe that keeps track of, what a bad girl you've been in another lifetime, and now you're really going to get it in this lifetime. That's a very human sort of duality way of thinking about it. So from my perspective, what I've learned is there's no such thing that karma, or that difficult experiences that we have in our lifetime right now are on some level scripted by our soul. Yeah. This is a hard one to grasp for me as well when I was going through my challenges. And this is for all of us. Like, we tend to want it to just be rosy and peachy all throughout our lives and just be given the gifts and then learn through joy. But that is not the school that we're in on earth. Up until this time right now, we've been learning through duality, through conflict, to finding out who we are, spiritual beings having a human experience, and rubbing up against places and situations that are difficult. Well, certainly when I look back at the difficult places that I've been in, they were perfect designed for me to move into more of what I am. And so I've seen this pattern emerge when I talk to people, that people have certain challenges in the first part of their life, and then they have an awakening, or they come see me. Like all their experiences, this is what's coming forward through sessions over and over and over, that they've been getting their education in learning to have compassion for other people, to learn about pain, especially when people are coming in from realms of existence that, like a lot of the younger people now, they've never been in a human body before. And so it's for them often that they're doing a crash course into all the horrors of human experiences that it can be. So, and it's really like that. Like when I talk to people that have just an unimaginable amount of horror take place in their lives, they're often big lights here for the planet. And they've scripted all these experiences in order to do a crash course into being a human being, so they're relatable and they can relate to other humans and to be the light that they came here to be.
So when you say that there's young people now that haven't been human before, why is that? Do you feel like that's just something that's happening right now to elevate the consciousness of the planet, or why do you think that's happening?
My understanding is, this is also what's described in Dolores's book, 3 Waves of the Volunteers, is she's identified different waves of souls coming in to help raise the frequency of the planet. And what I understand the backstory is to that is that, and this is what's coming forth in my sessions and my colleagues, it's all across the board, that in 1945, when the atomic bomb was dropped, in the spirit realms of different galaxies, other dimensional beings, what we call aliens, this was noted. They noticed that people had found the match, or like the kids have found the matches. So we got to do something before they destroy the planet and destroy themselves. So the plan was hatched that apparently there was no direct interference was allowed, because when planets grow, it's like they have to stay out of its development until they reach galactic consciousness. But so the plan was made that these higher frequency beings would incarnate into human bodies onto the planet in order to anchor more light onto the planet and raise the frequency. And so Dolores, through doing thousands of regressions, has seen patterns as well of the generations that came in right after the war. They had a certain expression in life. It was difficult for them. I forgot what the traits were exactly. Then it was sort of the second wave, which I think I'm part of. And now the third and waves thereafter are beings they don't come from physical 3D experiences. That can be difficult, but often through the work that, the generations preceding them has been doing, now the planet is vibrating at a higher level, so they can come in and pull it up even more. And so you see that a lot of the younger kids now, they will not stand for any of the bullshit that we've been dealing with for so long about who you're supposed to be. You know, they're like, fuck you all. I'm just going to do whatever I'm here to do. Yeah.
One of the questions I get asked the most is, I found a doctor. Now what do I do? What test do I ask him for? How do I do this? And that's a very loaded question. So I decided to create something super simple for you that you can use as a resource before you go see your doctor, whether it's a conventional doctor, a functional doctor, a naturopath, it doesn't matter. These are questions and tests that you can take with you to ask about. And it should give you a lot of confidence and peace of mind knowing that you're going in asking the right things and you're advocating for yourself in a big way. So if you go to thisistheplatform.com, you'll see 10 tests to ask your doctor for. And you can download that and even print it if you want and take it as a resource and really prepare yourself so that you can work through all the chronic illness, autoimmune disease, inflammation, pain, fatigue, brain fog, and anything else that is ailing you.
Why do you feel that when people see you and they relive a trauma that happened in this life or another life, that is important for them to experience for their healing?
It's not quite that they're reliving a trauma. Well, I have to say it's different for everybody. For some people, they do go through it. I think it is to release the charge of it having been suppressed for so long. So to access the emotional charge or the energetic charge of it, to let it move through your body and then to just let it clear. And so it can happen that, this has happened to me certainly, that I have done this work, had this work done to myself. And I was a little introverted, a little bit more emotional right after. So this is what can happen in healing work when sort of material has been accessed inside of your consciousness. And then, grief might come up, or sadness or anger. When you re-experience that situation in a safe space where you can process it, with yourself or with somebody who's sitting right there. So I think it's important to access it in order to let it come up and to release it.
Mm-hmm. What should people know about being hypnotized? Because I told a lot of my friends about you because I loved you and I was totally open to the experience. I wasn't bothered at all. But their first question is always like, I've never been hypnotized. What's it like? That's so scary. And I'm like, well, You're fully aware. I was in my body. I knew that my nose would itch and I would scratch it.
Right.
But I couldn't really open my eyes and I was really kind of succumbed to the moment.
Right. That's a good way of describing it. And that is a common experience. Though I must say it expresses very differently. For most of us are in that state that you described. A small percentage, I say about 10% maybe, they drop off completely. They have no recollection of what happened. They're not kind of aware of themselves. That happens. And then there's also a small percentage that is very, very hyper alert to where I'm dealing with their conscious mind in a lot of time. So there's many different ways of experiencing hypnosis, but it's not what you think you've seen on TV where you're sort of out of control, that you can be made to cluck like a chicken or to eat lemons like they're peaches. It's not like that, and it makes sense because it's your higher self that we're accessing. And so it would shut down the shop. Like if something would be happening that was not on, that was not good, then it would take you out. You're not out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you are getting people to that place, do you find that you're running into the ego, which stops them from letting go, and then you can't access it? How does that work?
Sure, that happens. We have different ways. We have like a bag of tricks.
I'm going to resist next time so I can see your bag of tricks.
So what it really boils down to for people to go into a state of play within themselves, to release sort of expectations. And think about it. When you were playing as a kid, you didn't have any expectations of what the play should be about or where you should get to an end result. And that's kind of easy. Like I've done a lot of inner work, so I can navigate it with the people that I'm working with. And it's just allowing imagination to come in, to allow people to just be open to images just dropping in, to feel safe enough to do that, to trust their own process. And so there's many different techniques that we use in order to sort of to get in through the back door, or to distract them long enough for other stuff to come in. There's many different hypnotic techniques that take care of that.
Well, and I'm sure, I mean, you're so highly intuitive and aware and in touch that has to play a role too. Like you can feel people's energy, you know, kind of where they can open up or where they're blocking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that my personal way of doing this work, it's almost like I step into your experience and I kind of sort of look around and feel around. And so then I notice different things that I can intervene, you know, I can bring in certain techniques or tricks in order to have you bypass the ego sort of trying to hold on. Yeah.
What role does the conversation before you even start play? Why do you talk to people for that extended amount of time before you begin?
It's for me to get a backstory to a person's life. So if certain material is brought up in their session, then it helps me to really direct my line of questioning, to help them the most in their current lifetime. So it's to be more efficient. It's also just to build rapport, because this work cannot be done if there's no trust. And so for us then to just talk for a while and to be in the same space and to acclimatize, is the word, to each other, to the space, and then there's also some hypnotic suggestions that are implanted in the conversation as well.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, tricking me.
Yes. Yeah.
I should have known. Oh my God.
And they're just like normal conversations. It's not like I'm like, sending your energies, or it's just like feeling you, making you feel like saying stuff like, it's going to be very, very easy. Oh, you're primed for this process, referring to experiences that you're telling me about. It's just confirming.
Yeah. Putting people at ease and making sure that they feel confident in the process, I'm sure, is super important.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you talked a bit about Reiki and different things like that. What other modalities have you studied that have gotten you to where you are now?
I've experienced bioenergetics, but I never took training in it, but it's shaped the way I think about our circuitry, how our emotions work, how trauma and emotions get stored in the body. I studied Reiki, and that kind of worked the same way when you apply energy healing to certain parts of the body, and it starts to either vibrate or shake or emote, or different things start happening. But it's always very, very body oriented for me. So Reiki, quantum touch, which is another healing modality, EMF balancing technique. And then I've been exploring consciousness in a meditation that I was taught. Yeah.
What's the meditation?
I was taught by an American woman in the Netherlands, and as a little girl, she was visited by a Tibetan monk in spirit, and he gave her this amazing meditation where you connect to healing guides that are out there for us, and they come in the shape of dragons. So I teach a dragon meditation, Tibetan dragon meditation, and the cool thing is that through my regression work, I've met dragons where people would go into lives as a dragon. And I've had it confirmed, over and over and over, that they're really benevolent beings, because here in the West, we often think that dragons are, the bad guy in the fairy tale, or that they're sort of reptilian, but it's a realm to its own that seems to bridge the human physical with the angelic realms. And so I've been working with them for a long time, and I introduce people to them and to help them sort of manage their own energy and do healing. Yeah.
How do you manage your day-to-day and your own spiritual work and your self-care?
It varies from wherever I'm in my own journey. So, there's usually something going on. Like meditation or energy healing, or simple massage, or going to nature, or journaling, or writing, yoga. Yeah, for a long time I was in therapy. I lost a partner in 2012, and that was a big, that was a big thing to deal with. And so I was in therapy for PTSD, trauma processing, and again, it helped me to become more clear about who I was. So I really love this work because I think I've experienced the freedom that I experienced within myself as doing all this personal work. And this is what I want to offer to the world. This is what I'm here to do for others. So it's not hard for me to ask for help in terms of, I ask help of Akashic record readers a lot. Yeah, it's depending on the situation. But like on a daily basis, I'd say nature is the biggest part. And then meditation, and depending on what's going on, maybe writing or just emoting. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like just from the time we've talked and I've, seen what you post and heard you talk, you seem to be someone that has very clear boundaries in order to protect yourself and your energy, but also to be able to serve other people and to do this work. I don't think we grow up necessarily having good boundaries. We don't know what that means, especially if we're sensitive people. Yeah. So how have you come to have those boundaries now?
It's a very gradual process. So I learned through being in codependent relationships. I was a people pleaser and not being aware of my own worthiness and knowing who I am to a degree. I gave away my power to places and people that did not serve me. And so it's through experiencing the difficulties of being in codependent relationships and losing my partner. I mean, it's been a journey, little steps, big steps. It's not one thing, but it's given me the knowing within myself that more self-awareness creates boundaries. So the more that you own who you are, the more discernment you'll have about what's coming into your space, because you feel worthy. You trust your own experience over the voices of the world. And that's a big thing to get, I think. So once you get that there's freedom and feeling good and worthiness in your own experience, when you start to trust yourself as your own emanation or expression of source on the planet, you're going to look out into the world in a different way. You're going to see things that are not on. And instead of sort of being codependent with them, you say, no, thank you. That's not for me. Yeah, it doesn't feel right for me. And to trust your own experience to the point where you don't have to find reasons why or defend it or explain it. It just goes like, no, doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Exactly. Yes. That's what we want.
It took me a long time to get there.
Yes. I mean, and it's still an ongoing process. I still find like it's more subtle now, where it was very dense before, but now it's more subtle, where I still like, oh, okay, this is a place where I still try to be more of a pleaser, or I lose track of my own sense of self a little bit. And so it's an ongoing process, but I've walked quite a bit of it compared to where I started. So it's been made very, very clear for me.
What does it feel like in your body when you're out of alignment?
I would say the biggest is being in your head. Like thinking, worrying about the future, being outside of the here and now. And I find as well, when people do not, like when I do energy work with people and I ask, so what are you feeling right now? Oh, I think, blah, 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 blah. And there's like some kind of concept that's being relayed. So like drop into your body, like feel your heart, drop down, not down. What does your body feel like? Some people don't know what they're feeling. And sometimes they don't even acknowledge sensations that the body has, like tightness or openness. So that's where I can start for some people.
So if you were giving advice to someone that is new to this work, that really wants to start opening up and being more aware of their emotions and feeling things in their body, what would be a couple simple things that they can implement into their day?
So the biggest one is the spiritual practice of enjoying joy for fuck's sake. And I call it joy for fuck's sake to make it very, very clear that there's no other agenda than just because it feels good to you right now. Like all of your experience informs you that this fucking feels amazing. So it's the joy that we felt as kids, like, like sledding down the side of a hill or being on your bicycle and barreling down a steep hill and feeling the wind in your face. And all of your experiences knows that this is the shit. This is good. Because the more space that we can give for that in our external experience, it's like taking your heart by the hand and saying, I'm listening to you. Because of course your heart wants to experience this kind of joy. And it's not the kind of joy that we get from getting acclaim or validation or, finally having the body that fits the beauty ideal or to look the part or to be acknowledged. I mean, that's a different kind of joy. But the joy for just being inside of a body, having your senses involved, your smelling, feeling, to enjoy being in a body. The more you do that, the more these other parts of yourself that have been shut down will start to make themselves known as well. And that can also be a process of being in therapy, but when you start listening to them and knowing that there is a little ways to go in order to embrace them, you might have to access different healing modalities. But that is a journey that, starting with joy, it helps to bring the focus back to where it needs to be, instead of be out in the world and to be trying to fit in or to be acceptable, but to be with yourself and to start listening to yourself. What do you want? Who are you? That's the biggest one for me. And then, there's lots of modalities now that you can access. I am a big proponent of experiencing through the body. I mean, we are in a body on the planet. So to access the body, to experience more of yourself. So bioenergetics, or even start with massages, or being out in nature with your bare feet on the soil. Those are simple things. Also making art, and not art to try and paint a pretty picture, but to just feel your contact with the material. Maybe it's ceramics, you on a wheel, or painting with your hands, to be more involved in the actual sensuous process of it, to feel yourself as you're doing it, rather than to aim for a pretty picture, to be in a state of play and joy. Those are big things, I think. And of course, meditation, but it's not easy to access for some of us. Yeah. So to get help, to find outside structures, to go to a class or something where you can do that, it's a good place to start too.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're the best.
Is this an hour?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was so fast. You're welcome. That was so enjoyable. Thank you for having me.
Jeroen is such an amazing man and amazing friend. And I'm so grateful for his work and his ability to show me where I've been and where I'm going. And sometimes it's a little uncomfortable for people to talk about these things or hear about them, because this is definitely outside the box. But that's how I'm living my life, and being open to that is really exciting, because you never know what kind of modality or protocol can impact your life in a big way and help you on your healing journey. So I hope you enjoyed this episode talking about past life regression and living authentically to who you are. Again, you can find him at Jeroen is love on Instagram, and head to source-energy-therapy.com to book an appointment. In just a few days, we'll have another amazing conversation for you here on the Platform Podcast. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.